You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The earliest things that makes it official. Welcome to 16 years of the Chris Voss Show, 2,500 episodes, and we just keep bringing you more of the smartest minds, the most brilliant people, the billionaires, the whales, presidential advisors, the great journalists, the you name it. They've all been on the show, even the romance novelists and people who just write jokes for funny. There you go. As always, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, and YouTube.com/Chris Voss. Oh my God, we need to have somebody record that so I don't have to do it anymore. We have an amazing young man on the show. He is joining us for his third appearance on the Chris Voss Show. You may know him from lots of TV, media, and all that good stuff, including the big old CNN, as Ted Turner used to like to call it. Was it Ted Turner? Did I have that right?
Sounds right.
I pulled the right reference right off the top. He is the author of the latest book to come out, When You Come at the King, Inside DOJ's Pursuit of the President from Nixon to Trump. Wait, was there something that went on? Anyway, September 16th, 2025, it came out. Elie Honig joins us on the show. We're going to be talking about his book, his insights, and all the stuff we're going to be learning. We're going to be doing some knowledge in, as they say. That's the lingo that intelligent people use. Elie is CNN's senior legal analyst. He previously worked for 14 years as a federal and state prosecutor. I'd like to reiterate that I didn't do it, so he never prosecuted me, but he never found out or smelled something. I don't know. I'm just doing jokes, folks. He provides on-air commentary and analysis for CNN on news relating to the U.S. Justice Department, major criminal trials, the Supreme Court, congressional grand jury investigations, national security, policing, and other legal issues. In 2022, he was nominated for an Emmy Award by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences in the category Outstanding News Analysis, Editorial, and Opinion. He's the national best-selling author of 2 prior books published by HarperCollins, Hatchet Man, and let's see, Untouchable. There you go. His third book is just out, and here he is. Welcome to the show, Elie. How are you?
So, Chris, I have to fact check you. You referred to me earlier as a young man. The reason, if your viewers are wondering why is this guy indoors wearing a vest, it's because I'm an old man, and hence I'm cold all the time. So, just want to clarify those.
It's an old Johnny Carson trick we do to butter up the guests and make them feel really good. Yeah.
Oh, so you meant it sarcastically. I got it.
No, not sarcastically. We do it to sincerely butter you up because we want people to feel special. We want our guests to be special.
But I am like, are you at the phase of life where you just wear jackets or sweatshirts indoors because you're cold?
Pretty much. I have there's sock season and then there's no sock season.
Yeah, my kids don't like it. My kids think it's weird, but I'll say you'll do it someday. I promise.
Just put them. Yeah. Just wait till you grow up. So Elie, give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find out about you on the interwebs?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Just Elie Honig on Instagram. ELIEHONIG on Instagram and all the usual suspects. Or Amazon, best of all, Amazon. There's only one person with this name. You're not going to find like which Elie Honig is this.
There you go.
Actually, wait, let me correct that. I did a piece for CNN a few months ago. Another guy named Elie Honig reached out to me. Not to get overly serious here, but he's a wonderful guy. He's 83 years old. He survived the Holocaust as a baby because his neighbors. He was a Jewish baby. Jewish man now. His non-Jewish neighbors in France hid him away from the Nazis so he could survive. So there are 2 of us now.
There's a book there, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, check out the pieces. You can find it on the internet. We did a little mini documentary piece about it.
That's pretty cool. All right. Well, give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book, sir?
So what I do in this book is I go back and I get first-person accounts on the record. By the way, no one's anonymous in this book. It's 36 or so people who were involved as prosecutors, defense lawyers, White House officials, cops, law enforcement, defendants in some cases, who were involved in all of the major DOJ prosecutions that have sort of defined the last 50 years. Watergate, Iran-Contra, Ken Starr and Bill Clinton, on through the more modern Mueller and Robert Hur and Jack Smith, all the Trump and Biden type investigations that have happened over the last 7-8 years.
There you go. So you got to give us a compilation of how special counsels were used, attorneys, and some of the kerfuffles that happened around these people.
I mean, I do. It's more than a compilation. You know, it's not just like a listing. I mean, these are what was so fun about reporting and writing this book is I talked to the people who lived these cases, and they were candid with me. I mean, they wanted their versions to be told for history, and at times those versions were consistent. At times, people disagreed. You know, you talk to a prosecutor and a defense lawyer on a case that happened a few years ago. They're going to remember things differently. They're going to argue amongst themselves. And you know, having been a criminal prosecutor for 14 years. I love those courtroom stories, the strategic stories, but there's also the additional overlay of politics in all this, because typically the person who's the focus of the investigation is going to be the president or some other powerful person close to the president. So hence the title, When You Come at the King, right? I mean, it's a reference to the famous saying, when you come at the king, you may best not miss, as Omar said it on The Wire, although it goes back apparently well before him. But the stakes of these things were basically life or death for all the folks involved.
Yeah. Sometimes career, sometimes other things. Yeah.
Politics, careers, reputations, fortunes, legacies, you name it.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of seen with Donald Trump here in 2025, you're watching this 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and in some hovel as Terminator AI bots roam above you. We've seen the punishment. I mean, they recently, what was it, a couple of days ago, they released or they put on leave 2 attorneys who were trying to get a good sentence on a January 6th person. So
they meant, well, it wasn't, I mean, that person had already been pardoned for January 6th. This defendant you're talking about commit a whole new set of crimes, basically is caught wandering around the neighborhood near where the Obamas live with a van with firearms and ammo that he illegally obtained. And prosecutors mentioned the fact that he was involved in January 6th, and they got suspended as a result.
Wow. That is just amazing. Well, I mean, I shouldn't be amazed. It's 2020. I keep waking up to new amazing every day, not in a good way. So you, what were some of the things that stuck out in the research that you did and the things you wrote about in the book? What were some of the high points that you were just like, wow?
I've liked talking to the people who are involved in some of the oldest cases, which I don't have direct memory of. So, for example, I spoke to 2 Watergate prosecutors who were 26 and 30 at the time. You can do the math. I mean, now they're in their 70s and 80s. Jill Wine-Banks and Jim Quarles. They're both sharp as tacks now. But, you know, I was born in 1975. So I that's post Nixon resignation.
You skipped all the fun.
Yeah, exactly. I missed it. I was actually, what was I? Gerald Ford, baby, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, hearing their perspective, for example, on like what it was like, you know, we all know about the Saturday Night Massacre, the infamous incident where Nixon basically gets rid of the special prosecutor, Archibald Cox, and then the AG and the deputy AG also resign. So it's this famous moment where the leadership of DOJ and the Watergate prosecution has all been basically beheaded at the exact same time. And I talked to these prosecutors about, well, what happened the next morning? What did you do? And they told these amazing stories. Jill Wine-Banks was at a wedding that Saturday night. She said she couldn't get a day off. She was working 6.5 days a week. She goes to a wedding. She gets back to her hotel in New York at midnight, and they hand her a message, one of the old-fashioned phone messages written out. You remember, Chris? And it said the office has been seized. Return immediately. So they go back the next morning and they're figuring, what did we do? Have we all been fired? We know all the bosses have been fired. Are we out of business? Are we continuing? And Archibald Cox, who had been fired, he was sort of the hero of this group, comes in and they're sitting on the floor because the rest of the office had been like marked off with police tape. And he tells them, do not give him, meaning Nixon, do not give him what he wants. You stay here, you do the work, and you finish the job. And they did. They were allowed to do that. Political forces sort of coalesced behind them. So I love getting that inside view of these famous moments of history. And there's also there's just humanity to it. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. Archibald Cox was this sort of like bow tie wearing former Harvard law professor, very patrician and trim and very formal. And there was a place across the street from their office, the Watergate prosecution offices in DC, called Archibald's. And Archie Cox said to the team at one point, we should go there for lunch someday. It has the same name as me. Like, it's calling out to us. And they had to tell him, yeah, Archie, so that's actually a strip club across the street.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's by the way, I'm told, Chris, it's still there, and it's still called
Really?
Archibald's. So,
Well, I mean, where's the best way to be undercover if Nixon's goon squad is looking for you, right? Maybe a
exactly.
strip club. I
They
don't
would
know.
never suspect it. But, so I love those kind of human moments as well.
You can get those expenses at the DOJ, can't you? Write-offs when you turn in those receipts, right?
Research or something,
Is that how it
depending
works?
what kind of case. Listen,
Yeah.
I did. I mean, we laugh, but I did a case involving the Gambino family when I was an organized crime prosecutor. They were shaking down a strip club in Manhattan. Now, we never did go to the strip club. We never did do a field trip. But I don't know if there's ever a case where you can expense it. I guess that would have been it.
There you go. Well, Jill's been on the show, and she's amazing. I
Oh, yeah.
remember she talked about the time that they figured out that her phone was bugged at home.
Oh,
I believe, if I recall
I
right.
wish I had gotten that story from her. I did.
Yeah. I think it's in her book that's there.
Sure.
So you cover everything. Clearly, there's something going on with this Trump guy still. There was the original, investigations of him in his first term, but evidently there's some other kerfuffle with and he's been in the news. It's kind of interesting. Jack is trying to get, I believe, a hearing with Congress
Jack
over
Smith.
stuff. Yeah, Jack Smith.
Well, there's a lot of issues swirling around Trump. So let me pause first. I mean, one of my theories in the book is what we see happening now with Trump's second term is different in kind from anything we've seen before in history going back to Watergate.
Mhm.
Because every president up to now, including Trump's in his first term, nobody likes being investigated. Nobody loves special counsel. Nobody relishes that. But they've all understood and respected that there needs to be an independent Justice Department, and sometimes there needs to be an outside prosecutor brought in. Now, they've tried to undercut it, obstruct, delay, undermine in the public eye. But now Trump has taken us to a whole new point where his perspective is there will be nobody investigating me or anyone close to me or any of my allies. And we're going to use DOJ in a payback way, in a retributive way. And part of that is, Jack Smith is one of the people that Trump has said he wants to see prosecuted. Now, look, I'm critical of Jack Smith in the book to an extent. I think some of the things Jack Smith did were over the top, were not what ordinary prosecutors would do in the interest of fairness. However, I see zero evidence that Jack Smith committed a crime or anything resembling a crime. You can be critical of a person's performance as a prosecutor without believing they need to be prosecuted themselves. This whole thing with the back and forth with Congress is like a game of chicken both ways. Congress has said, we demand your testimony, but we want it behind closed doors. And Jack Smith has said, I want to testify, but only in public, and also only if you grant me these other things that I want. I want you to tell me. Like, he's being careful, rightly so. He doesn't want to, if he coughs during his testimony, they'll probably charge him with some sort of crime. So he's trying to be careful. I don't think you should. I'll put it this way. I don't expect to see a day, could well be wrong, but I don't expect to see a day where Jack Smith testifies publicly in front of Congress. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think either of them really want that in their heart of hearts.
It's a bold move on his part, I think, because it kind of throws the gauntlet down and maybe offsets any attack to come from them. I don't know.
That's the appearance. I mean, he's definitely trying to give like a bold appearance that I'm not afraid of you and I want to come tell the truth. But he has attached certain conditions that I think he knows they won't grant him. So there's posturing both ways here.
There you go. Plus, he should ask for the Epstein files too.
They're always swirling. Yep.
Seems to be like there's something about those files that no one wants to see. What's up with that? Anyway, so what were some of the? Can you share some of the failures that Jack Smith did so I can know why my democracy is disappearing?
Well, so look, the first part of it is not Jack Smith's fault. The first part of it is Merrick Garland's fault for taking almost 2 years to appoint Jack Smith. And I opened the Jack Smith chapter with the sentence, Jack Smith never had a chance. And by the way, Chris, my last book, which I wrote in 2022 before Jack Smith was appointed, I already said it's already too late. There were these odd defenders, bizarre defenders of Merrick Garland, most of whom never were really a prosecutor, so don't understand this stuff, who were saying, oh, no, the people who've been at DOJ were mostly saying, Garland's not doing anything towards Trump here. He's play acting like he is, but he's not meaningfully going after Trump. And they said, yes, he is. You just don't know it. He's a stealth ninja. Well, of course, it turned out he was doing no such thing. There's been extensive reporting, and he wasted almost 2 years doing nothing. He finally appoints Jack Smith. My criticism, so Jack Smith was put in a sort of impossible position where there was no way he was going to be able to investigate, indict, deal with all the appeals issues, and then try his cases before the 2024 election. Now, Chris, let me ask you. It sounds like you're somebody who supports Jack Smith and isn't a particular fan of Donald Trump. Do you think that Jack Smith was trying to get Donald Trump's trial in before the 2024 election? And let me ask you differently. Do you think Jack Smith was cognizant of the 24 election and trying to get Trump tried before it?
I don't know about that. I do know he had all those speed bumps with the basically the
Immunity.
judge in Florida who
well,
was
let's
kind of in the
put that
bag.
one aside. Put that one aside.
Okay.
Let's focus on the January 6th case in December, because yes,
Okay.
the one in DC, in the January 6th case.
Mhm.
Do you think, just as an observer, as an informed member of the public, Jack Smith was trying to accelerate that trial because he wanted to try it before the 24 election?
I wouldn't know either way, based upon I'm
Okay.
not that. You being a lawyer, you guys are
Okay.
pretty familiar
So
with your guys' moves.
that's sort of move beyond the realm of opinion and into
Mhm.
fact. I mean, every single step that Jack Smith took was speed, expedite. He asked for all these sort of special emergency procedures to speed it up.
Mhm.
So look, whatever one thinks of Donald Trump, do we agree that as a criminal defendant, a person charged by the United States whose individual liberty is at stake, he is entitled to protect the same constitutional protections any other defendant would be entitled to? Okay. The average person in an average case, and usually it's a simple drug or gun case, who gets charged federally in district court in DC, the same place Jack Smith charged Trump, gets 28 months between indictment and trial to prepare, for the lawyers to go through the discovery, for the lawyers to investigate. Do you remember how long Jack Smith demanded a trial for Donald Trump? How many months after indictment? The average gets 28. What did Jack Smith demand initially?
I don't know. What?
5 months.
Really?
On a case involving 13 million documents. Now, put yourself in that position. You are charged, or trying to basically lock you up for what amounts to the rest of your life. They hand over 13 million documents and tell your lawyers, you need to be ready to try this case in 5 months. Wow. There's no way they could have physically gotten through that discovery and done adequate preparation. That's one example. Several times Jack Smith, at one point, when the immunity issue came up, Jack Smith won in the district court, and he asked for emergency relief. He said, I want to skip the middle court and I want to go right to the U.S. Supreme Court. And they said, why? What's the mad rush? This is very rarely granted. Jack Smith didn't want to admit that he was thinking about the election because he knew that would look political. So he didn't answer them. He just said, well, speed is good. And the Supreme Court said, if you're not going to give us a reason, we're not going to do it. And so he lost that. Then he goes to the Court of Appeals. He wins. And then what does he say to the Supreme Court? He completely does a 180. He says, rather than you have to take this case right away, only you, Supreme Court, can take it. He says, no, Supreme Court, you shouldn't take this case at all, because all he cared about was speed. Finally, I'll give you one more example, Chris. A year ago right now, October of 2024, shortly before the election, the case finally comes back down to the district court. It goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. Now it's back in the district court. When you do motions in criminal trials, the defense goes first. That's in the rules. That's the way it works. And then the prosecution responds. You don't even know what the defense motions are going to be until, right? I did motions 1,000 times. Every single time the defense goes first. That's what the rule said. However, Jack Smith realized there was only enough time before the election for one party to go.
Wow.
And so the way it was going to play out was Trump was going to get to put in his motion, like now, like October, mid-October. Trump would have said these charges are bullcrap, whatever. And then Jack Smith, going second, wouldn't have been able to respond until after the election. Jack Smith went to the judge and said, Judge, I'd like to reverse that. And the judge even said, who's very pro-Jack Smith, very anti-Trump, said, that's procedurally irregular. And then she let him do it. And then he puts in a quadruple length brief, 4 times the normal amount. And he dumps on the American public weeks before the election. Here's everything bad I found about Donald Trump, because he reversed the rules. So Jack Smith is not a Boy Scout. I missed the meeting where every other legal analyst was ordered, thou shalt only shine Jack Smith's boots. But the guy went out of his way in ways that undermined the constitutional rights of his defendant to rush this case to trial before the 2024 election. Now, look, I know what the response has been. People go, shut up, Elie. Liberals say, shut up, Elie. He was right to try Donald Trump before the 24 election. We had to know before the 24 election. To which I say, you're proving my point here. We can argue about whether it was smart or not smart, right or wrong. And there's a debate, and I can see both sides of, should Jack Smith have been rushing? But you're agreeing with me inherently that Jack Smith was rushing because of the election. which I argue is inherently political. You can't tell me a prosecutor who's in a mad dash to get something tried before an election is not being political. So Jack Smith's no Boy Scout. Sorry to burst this bubble. I should also say another thing. Do you know, Chris, fun fact, the 4 biggest cases Jack Smith ever handled before the Trump cases were all rejected by judges or juries because he overreached or overcharged or violated constitutional rights of his defendant. All 4 biggest ones, all rejected. 9-0 by the Supreme Court in one case. Liberals and conservatives alike agreed that he overcharged the case. He had a death penalty case involving a guy who murdered 2 NYPD undercovers where Jack Smith made comments to the jury that violated that defendant's constitutional rights, and that death penalty got thrown out because Jack Smith went overboard. So there needs to be some accountability here for him too.
There you go. Well, hang on one sec, Ellie. Hey guys, can you take down my my Jack Smith poster and fan club? Get me resigned from the fan club.
Listen, but it's funny. It's actually, I want to talk about that. You know, there was this cartoonization of Robert Mueller, of John Durham the other way. Conservatives did it. And then of Jack Smith, where like, you remember all the internet memes and Justice is Coming and Mueller bobbleheads and Jack Smith podcasts and Jack superhero, right? So it's interesting because I talked to members of Mueller's team and they hated that. They said nothing could have been more out of line with who Robert Mueller is. An American patriot.
Boy Scout.
Wounded in Vietnam. He's a Purple Heart recipient. He served under 4 different presidents, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, both appointed him to different high-ranking jobs. He was confirmed by the Senate unanimously all 4 times. And he did not view his job as a prosecutor as being some political avenger of the left's fantasies. He viewed his job as, let me get in here, do a fair and full investigation, and do whatever I need to do, the right thing. And they hated that. Mueller's own team members, Mueller himself, hated it. And they said, by the way, it also fueled Donald Trump in his lashing out at us. It's saying, look at all these liberals who are, hoping this guy takes me down. So, and that sort of memification tends to happen now with whoever's rooting for the prosecutor takes off with the memes.
I don't know if you researched this in your book, but I've always been kind of curious that Robert Mueller, and no slam to him, but evidently shortly after he came down with Alzheimer's. And
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think that's ever been confirmed, but Robert Mueller, it's clear that when he gave his testimony in 2019, you remember he was a little bit, he was a little bit sort of soft-spoken and he didn't really have much to say. And people who knew him say, look, he at that point he was in his 70s and he was not in his peak form there. I don't want to speculate about what his medical condition is, but he certainly has been, out of the public eye since then.
I stand corrected, Parkinson's, but we don't know exactly.
We don't know. But like that wasn't the peak Robert Mueller in 2019.
Yeah, I mean it. I'm saying that because I remember how it seemed like he was very bothered when you wrote about him in your first book,
Bill Barr.
Bill Barr. It seemed like he was really bothered when Bill Barr kind of whitewashed his report.
So was I. I mean, and so were Mueller's team members. I talked to them about it. I mean, that's exactly what happened. Bill Barr got Mueller's report, did not release it for a month. And if you look historically, usually AGs immediately release the reports. Barr holds it for 27 days and completely distorts what's in it. By the time it came out a month later, it was over already. People already had drawn their conclusions. And Mueller did write a pointed letter to Barr where he said, basically, you've misrepresented my conclusions.
And why didn't they see that coming? Like everybody knew Bill Barr was in the can for Trump.
It's a great question. What I say, I think in my second or first book is, why didn't he see it coming? I guess he just assumed that, like Mueller himself, Barr would generally play by the rules, which was wrong. But I say it's kind of like if you had a street fight, or, and one of the boxers was going by Marquis of Queensberry rules, right? Big puffy gloves and boxing. And the other guy was in there like an MMA brawler, right? And that's, Mueller's the proper, we do things properly, and Barr's the political brawler. And it was a mismatch. Yeah.
So I need you to settle a bet for me. My attorney friends, we've mentioned this before the show. We've invited Carol Lenig on the show again for a book Injustice. And I guess some of the reporting in there, if I have this accurate, is that Jack Smith had the option to try that case in Washington, D.C.
The classified documents case.
Yes. They knew the risk of going to Florida. There was they knew the percentage of the risk of going to Florida
Yeah.
that it would get with that one judge.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
So I read the excerpt. I haven't read the book yet, but I read
Mhm.
the excerpt, which I think was in the Post. First of all, Carol Leonnig is a great reporter.
Mhm.
I will tell you, I came across some similar. I'm sure she has the story exactly right, because I actually came across some similar stuff that for my book. It's a really interesting strategic call there, because
Mhm.
Jack Smith definitely. So when you have a federal case that happens in multiple districts, you can choose which district, but there has to be some link of the crime to the district where you charge it. No question, Florida would have been proper. He would have had no problem. There wouldn't even have been an argument about can he charge it in Florida.
Mhm.
But the risk is you get worse judges and a worse jury pool, by the way. If you're going after Trump, you'd much rather try him in D.C. than Florida. I mean, he won the
Yeah.
state of Florida. He lost 85% of the vote in D.C.
Mhm.
There were people on his team who wanted him to charge the documents case in D.C., not Florida. However, D.C. would have had risk. I don't know that he would have had venue in D.C. because you could say, well, he took the documents from D.C., but the problem is he took the documents when he was president. He took them in his last couple days
Ah.
as president. So it's not a crime yet until he's no longer president. So they did the safer thing there. This, in a way, actually runs against what I was saying previously with Jack Smith, where I was saying he was so gung-ho to get him. He actually did the safer thing by charging in Florida. But there were people on his team who were even more aggressive who said, screw it, like, we have to take a chance by bringing this in DC because we have a way higher chance of convicting him in DC. So I think Jack Smith did the right thing there, but may have undermined his own chances of success in the process.
There you go. Well, I just lost the bet then. My attorney friends are right.
Well, look, they're right. DC would have been judge shopping. I mean, there's no question. Like 98% of the activity happened in Florida. I think he was probably aware of that too. I would guess somebody said, look, if we bring this in DC, it's going to be pretty obviously like we're shopping for a favorable forum here, which we're not really supposed to do.
Yeah. Let me play devil's advocate here, because is it possible that maybe Jack Smith was rushing because normally with classified case, I mean, the government has like what, a 99.9% conviction rate, where usually you settle because I mean, there's like people who've just taken classified documents home by accident in their purse,
Right.
White House, and they still probably spent a day in jail and paid a fine. It's pretty cut and dry. It's surprising he survived that.
So you're saying that
So Jack
Jack
Smith was just
rushed?
trying to get him to settle, maybe? I don't know.
No, well, first of all, the conviction rate in all federal cases is high 90s.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't get prosecuted for minor classified documents type violations. Look at Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden was more major than what you said, and less major than Trump, but he was not charged. There's a chapter in the book about that. No, I don't think there was ever any hope of Donald Trump pleading. When you say settle, that means pleading guilty. There was a 0 point. I think Jack Smith understood correctly. There was a 0% chance Donald Trump is ever going to say, "Yes, Your Honor, I admit I'm guilty of these." No way.
Yeah, the story about how the Justice Department tried to cajole Donald Trump and be nice and play nice and hey, can we get our
before
documents?
charging look, they gave the DOJ before. This is pre Jack Smith. DOJ gave Donald Trump 1,000 chances to do the right thing and just turn the docs over and do it the easy way, and he refused. Yeah.
That's why I moved my classified docs from the bathroom, because evidently that's bad.
To the garage, like Biden.
Yeah, like Biden. If they're next to an antique Corvette, it's okay.
Yeah. No, it's okay, right? I mean,
It's
Biden
American
himself,
car.
do you remember Biden said, "Oh, come on, that's where I keep my precious Corvette." Like, of course it's secure. It's similar. It's funny because Trump also was like, "Oh, no, you can't just walk into Mar-a-Lago." Like, they both had the same argument. Yeah.
You can't just walk in any bathroom. Oh, wait, you can. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of, wasn't there that crazy lady or somebody who was impersonating some richness, and she was cutting all over.
That rings a bell. There was someone who snuck into Mar-a-Lago, and
she got past the Secret Service and everything.
Yeah.
Just some fraud. So there you go. Anything more we want to tease out on the book before we go? What do you hope people come away with when they read your book?
So first of all, I hope people will enjoy the stories, because there's so many firsthand stories. I mean, I'll put you at the table when Bill Clinton is getting examined. You'll be in the strategy room, the trial room with Trump's team, with Biden's team, with with White House officials, with you name it, with Mueller's team. But the big picture takeaway is this: what we're seeing now in Trump 2.0 is different. It's fundamentally different than anything we've seen before. And there's a plea at the end to sort of the next president. Look, I'm under no illusion where we are now. Trump has politicized and weaponized DOJ. There's no question about it. And the fact, by the way, that I argue some of the prosecutions of Trump were overdone in no way excuses or authorizes what he's doing now. But I argue to the next president that when you get in office, so many of our guardrails and structures and protections are going to be in rubble. And it's going to be tempting for you, whether it's, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, J.D. Vance, or Ron DeSantis or Stephen A. Smith. You're not going to like these things. What president likes being investigated? What president likes ethics rules that restrict the way he can do his business? But this is too important. This, in an independent DOJ and some meaningful means of bringing in an outside prosecutor, even Richard Nixon, or even whatever side you're on, Richard Nixon to Bill Clinton to Bush and Reagan to Biden to Trump 1 have all acknowledged that there is some need for some independence. And we do have to bring that back. And if we don't, it's at our own peril.
No one is above the law. Or it's supposed to be.
We aspire to that. I don't know if it's true, but yes, that is an important goal.
I don't know if the latest SCOTUS ruling supported that. Let me ask you this too. There's a huge shift going on. I don't want to put you in any bad positions here, so I've kind of framed this some different ways. But there's a huge shift going on with true journalism and news. And we're seeing this across the board, CBS and even CNN. There's been some different reporting about stuff. It seems like we're maybe entering a phase where it's not going to be about the powerful news channels anymore, but it's going to be about real journalists doing real reporting, maybe from their own sort of places. I'm a big fan of Don Lemon, and he's doing his own journalism now. It seems like the onus of reporting and doing great journalism isn't going to come down anymore to maybe the big houses, the Washington Post. You remember what happened with Woodward and Bernstein, all that stuff, and the backing they got.
I talked to Carl for the book. He's the book. Carl Bernstein. Yep.
What are your thoughts on some of the shifts that are going on, and is it gonna come down to where journalists are just gonna have to become their own independent podcasters? And
so, number one, I can only speak to my own experience at CNN. I've been there for 7 years now under 3 different CEOs. Really, I have never been told anything other than get it right, play it fair, and speak your mind. I've been rewarded for that, including saying some things that liberals don't want to hear, like my Jack Smith thing, right? I mean, I said something like that about Jack Smith on air the other day, and I happened to run into the CEO the next day, and he said, good work. Like you had your facts in line and you were fair. And he said, that's a balloon that needs to be punctured, right? You don't just automatically fall in line with one political ideology. I actually like the way that Mark Thompson, our CEO, expressed it recently in an interview he did. He said something like, we're not trying to be, people go, oh, is CNN trying to be center? We're not trying to be center or right or left. We're not on that spectrum, ideally. We're over here observing it and explaining it to people. That's our job isn't to register a 1 or a 10 or a 5 or a 4 or 6 on the 1 to 10 scale of liberal to conservative. Our job is to be on the outside explaining and reporting on that. So I feel very good about the work that my colleagues and I have done at CNN. I can tell you from being in the building, all we try to be is fair. Look, you can go, well, how about Scott Jennings? How about Van Jones? But that's their job. Their job is to express and articulate, here's the left, here's the right. That's a specific role they play. But that's not my role. And I don't mean in a negative way. That's their job. My job is not to do that. My job is to analyze. I'm a legal analyst, and our reporters are sane. Okay, that's number one. Number two, it is a fact that people are getting their news from more different and diverse sources than ever. Substacks, and some of them are really good and insightful. But I also think we need to be careful when you talk about what real journalism is, because there is not an independent operator out there who can do what CNN can do when stuff goes down in Israel and Gaza, when there's a natural disaster in Japan, when things are happening on the ground in Ukraine and Russia. There's not an independent person with a YouTube page out there who can come anywhere close to equaling the inside reporting that you get from Caitlin Collins at the White House, from Manu Raju on Capitol Hill, from Pete Montine on aviation, from Sanjay Gupta. So I am very much in favor of and encourage independent media, I'm going to call it. But
Yeah.
not all media is journalism, strictly speaking, right? And I love Don Lemon personally. I'm long friends with him.
Mhm.
But I don't think Don would tell you he's out there breaking stories. He's getting and giving interesting perspectives.
Mhm.
But I don't think Don would tell you he's, I have the following to report the way Manu would report. Okay,
Sure.
there's movement in the committee room at Capitol Hill, and the Republicans are coming. Like, I don't think that's what Don or Jim Acosta, another guy I'm friends with, who I have a long relationship with. I don't think either of them would purport that that's what they're doing. They have voices that are worthy and need to be told, and they're doing it in interesting ways. But there is a line between media and journalism, not always necessarily one and the same.
Yeah. In fact, I wish people would realize that when it says op-ed, that's not like real journalism, I would say.
Well, it's
half
an opinion. It's a
The
journalistic opinion.
You'd be surprised how many people think that's news. Like and you
Right.
see that a lot on the right. They'll like, well, they said this, and they're like, that's an op-ed.
Well, and also, like everyone needs to be, and I think you maybe use the phrase media diet, but we think, like, I'm not the first one to say it this way, but we're cautious of our diet. Like, we think about, what am I eating? Is this good for? Okay, I'll eat a little. That's bad for me. It's fine, but I got to eat somewhat healthy. We should think about media the same way and be scrutinize. My one big piece of advice to everyone: when you're taking in media, always find the primary source if you can. Almost always you can in today's world. So, for example, if you read an article today that says, Jack Smith sends blistering letter to Congress. Okay, click around, you'll find that letter, and you can judge for yourself what's in the letter. And better for you to actually read Jack Smith's letter to Congress than to read somebody saying, one outlet's going to say Jack Smith smacks down Congress, and another outlet's going to say Jack Smith whines like a baby to Congress. You know what I mean? Find the letter and read it for yourself and draw your own conclusion. It's there. It's just Google it. You'll find it. So
I think the other interesting thing is you'll hear people say, well, they're always the top news agencies are always bashing on Trump or talking about Trump. And it's like, do you understand that that's part of our freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the Fourth Estate, to report on? I mean, they have to kind of report.
He's the president.
He's the president.
I mean, that's what else who else does one report on?
I mean, no one's reporting on me.
There's others, but he's the president. He's the president, whoever it is always going to be the number one topic of reporting.
And that's part of keeping us alert, and that's the journalist's job. My question revolves more around, like, the CBS stuff. I'm really concerned about the Washington Post, some of the limiting things that we've seen recently out of there. And I'm really concerned for journalists, because we love journalists on the show, and we understand the nature of what they go through, the training they go through to try and be ethical as much as they can.
I wouldn't look. I don't know anything about those situations from the inside, but be skeptical of what you read about that stuff. Look, people. I'll tell you this. I do these, in-person events, and I always get in fact, sometimes at the same event, why is CNN so pro-Trump? Why is CNN so anti-Trump? But the question I always ask is this: how many hours a week do you watch us? Right? And people, like. You can and ideologues on both sides, partisans on both sides, do not want to hear one word that goes against whichever their side is, right? And they draw conclusions. There's going to be days when you see me and I'm going to be criticizing the living crap out of Donald Trump. There's going to be days when you see me and I'm criticizing, or I'm saying that something Trump wants to do is constitutional, or he should win in the Supreme Court, or I'm criticizing Alvin Bragg for bringing his case against Donald Trump the way he brought it. So that's what I try to do when we try to do at CNN.
There you go. It's interesting what's going on in the world and how the corporations are moving, and some of the parallels that you see with corporations and the embracement of what was done in 1930s Germany with corporations and Hitler, and what you see now.
That. I need to swear.
Well, I'm not saying CNN or anybody.
I reject Nazi comparison. Listen, I'm the grandson of 2 Holocaust survivors. People are way too glib and way too easy with their 1930s Germany, Nazi, Hitler. I reject that. It's categorically. Sorry.
There you go. Do you see any terms of what we're going through now in history that you would reference?
Any prior comparisons? I mean, read the book.
Dude.
You have everything from Watergate to now.
Read the book to find out. There we go. There we go. We got the tie. Well, it's been fun, Elie, to have you on the show. I'm going to replace a poster of you over my Jack poster, because you You've
I,
tainted me.
I seek no such adulation, but thank you.
You've tainted. I'll be joining the Elie Honig fan club. But I do have
Thanks,
my
Chris.
CNN paid subscription. So,
Oh, good.
folks, pay and support
All access.
great
It's a great product. It
journalism.
really is. Yeah.
Yeah, really do.
All right, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
And Elie.coms as we go on.
Oh, just Elie Honig, ELIEHONIG at Instagram, Facebook. I don't so much do what used to be Twitter anymore. I'm kind of off that, but that's the best place.
There you go. Order up his book, folks, wherever fine books are sold, called When You Come at the King, Inside the DOJ's Pursuit of the President from Nixon to Trump, out September 16th, 2025, and pick up his other 2 books as well. Thanks to Elie for showing up. Thanks to all our audience for being here. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.